FMCSA just released big news on how they want to change the trucking safety rating system. And this shakeup may help or hurt carriers depending on your size or your risk level. And there's a lot of changes that FMCSA is proposing. So I brought in John Irwin, CEO of CNS, to help us break this down. Let's get in the loop with Luke and dive in. Thanks for joining me, John. This is news that we've been waiting for like 6 years now. A lot of discussion on potential changes, and it's all focused around the safety management system. And it's a quick rundown of what this does. SMS really uses the data from your roadside inspections, crash reports, data from investigations, and their goal is to identify and intervene with motor carriers that pose greater risks. Previously, it sort of feels like it's been unfair for smaller carriers. I know the government, the Congress mandated a report to sort of look at some of its shortfalls. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's a lot to take in right now because changes, this coming out was expected to come out, and we've all been waiting for it. And we thought they had a way that they were going about it with the item response theory,
right?
And that kind of got scrapped and came out to this new model, which, honestly, first glance looking at it, I'm kind of happy about for the smaller carriers because it looks like it's putting them on a better playing field than previous. And that really helps them. SMS scores affects them multiple ways, from getting loads through brokers, their insurance. Everybody knows the cab report gets pulled and is looking over at these SMS scores and affects their rating on insurance. So this is going to be totally, it's not totally different, but it's really making it more beneficial for the smaller carriers. And
to go along with that good news size, it does seem like the item response theory, this was announced a few years ago. Basically, FMCSA said, no, we don't want to do this because it's too complex. It's hard to replicate. If you're trying to replicate what is my CSA score or SMS safety rating score, real hard. It's complex to look at it. It's also slow. One of the things they mentioned was, the SMS can update in 2 days, where the IRT model was like 4 weeks to update this information.
Right.
But there's a lot of changes. There's 7 changes specifically that I have here. I think it'd be great to run down each of these and sort of look at what's the change and pro con of these changes.
Absolutely.
So FMCSA, this is a notice that they released yesterday. It's up for a comment period, 90 days, so we can look at it. You can make comments, suggestions. Maybe all of these suggestions will come into place, but there's 7 main ones. We're going to go through one at a time, so it's a little bit more digestible. The first one is they want to reorganize and update safety categories. Many of you might know it as basics, the 7 basics. You want to run down that real quick?
Yeah. Obviously the one major one that they're looking to put in is the controlled substance, alcohol, and putting that with unsafe driving category.
Yeah.
And, one of the reasons that they're doing that is there's not tons of violations in the drug and alcohol category. And it kind of makes sense because it is unsafe driving for that, which will, go along with those scores.
Well, I'm curious with unsafe driving, before these changes potentially come into play, what would usually cause a high unsafe driving?
So for unsafe driving is going to be your speeding. 15 plus getting popped for that on the road. That's going to be your most highest percentage and most highest severity weight rating. So that really drove those up. Just your other speedings from 6 to 10, etc. From there.
No seat belts, cell phone, handhelds.
Yep. Lane violations, things like that would drive that up. Now moving up with the drug consortium, or drug controlled substance, I should say, moving that over, you can drive that up if you have people that will get popped for in, just say, an audit, in for a acute or critical violation because maybe you're not managing a drug consortium. You're not putting the right people in for the picks, etc.
Right. And so there's 7 main basics: unsafe driving, crash indicator, hours of service compliance, vehicle maintenance. We mentioned controlled substance being sucked into unsafe driving potentially, hazmat, and driver fitness. The biggest one that I saw that was interesting was they want to change vehicle maintenance and sort of split it into 2. The biggest reason was there's so many different violations and indicators with vehicle maintenance. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so they're looking to do it as an observed vehicle maintenance and just regular vehicle maintenance. So observed vehicle maintenance in their eyes is things that should have been caught on a pre-trip or post-trip inspection.
Right.
Hey, the driver should have caught this or should have known about this violation. That would be in its separate category too, compared to a violation that maybe wouldn't have been able to be caught in that time of a pre-trip or post-trip inspection.
Well, and I like this one too because if you get popped for it. Okay, next step is you want to make changes. You want to improve, and now you have a clear, focused area of improving, where to train, where to help make these changes happen. So I do like to see this moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, insurance, when they look at this vehicle maintenance, a lot of people say, oh, insurance is trying to get the older trucks off the road because they won't insure my 20-plus-year-old truck. Well, they're really not saying that. They're really looking at it as far as if your vehicle maintenance score is high, that means you can't keep care of that truck.
Right.
And that's what they're worried about. This is going to give it a little bit of a different level is, are you keeping care of the truck? Is your drivers doing the correct things in the pre-trip and post-trip to find these violations, etc. So I'm anxious to see how that's going to change in the underwriting world.
Right, and it looks like the other basic categories aren't really changing a whole lot, but what is changing that they mentioned is, so each of these basics have their own list of violations, and these violations are going to be grouped a little bit differently. They're adding a few more into it that's not in the SMS system currently. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, and again, with this just coming out yesterday, trying to absorb all this and go through everything, there's still a lot to take in and figure out. I mean, they want to combine the current 959 violations using the SMS plus 14 additional violations not currently used into 116 new violations group. It's good. I mean, yeah, I feel like it's making it a little bit simpler. In that aspect, I saw some of the examples for hours of service, for example, of what would be lumped in, proposed, lumped into those categories. Makes sense to me to do that. Again, this whole thing is they're trying to make it simpler and to target those who are going to cause hazards on the road compared to those who are not. So.
Well, and to go with that, one of the things they want to do is change the violation severity weight. So usually you see a 1 to 10 scale. Now they're sort of basically wanting it to be this group of violations to be in a 1 and 2 scale. 2, if you have an out-of-service violation, automatically the highest level. A 1, if it's a non-out-of-service violation. If it's a mix of both, then that grouping of violations, we'll give it a 2. Again, it seems to sort of simplify and stress out-of-service violations are the big issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the biggest indicators for crash, right?
Absolutely.
That's what they want to prevent.
Out-of-services, I mean, they're the critical ones. They're the ones that are most likely to cause that crash, like you said, which would be causing injury or fatality to the general public or to the trucker themselves. And that's what they want to stop seeing with the growth of accidents over the last year and the growth of injuries and fatalities. FMCSA needed to step in and try to get a handle on this. Just kind of like you said, the violation severity weight ratings currently assessed at a 1 through 10 scale, with 10 being the most safety negative. Changes designed to eliminate percentile ranking jumpings that occur is going to, when carriers move into a new safety group into that. So it's a well-known issue for small carriers as well into that. So adjusting those percentiles will help in that area.
And a tag on that, so the safety management system that groups you, it wants to compare you to other carriers similar to you. So 1 to 2 drivers compare each other. 3 to 5 or 3 to 10 drivers are going to compare you to each other. And as you grow or change over time, you're going to jump into these other thresholds.
Yep.
So they just want to smooth that change out so you don't get popped so hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
And to go with what you were saying about the severity, like the severity weights, it's going to go to 1 or 2.
Right.
A lot easier than what they had.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
So the SMS system there's intervention thresholds. If you're creeping up on too many violations and you're getting riskier and riskier, there's an intervention threshold where they're going to send out a warning letter saying, hey, you need to change something, or we're going to audit you. Some of these intervention thresholds are looking to be changed.
Well, yeah, driver fitness will go from 80 to 90,
right?
75 to 85 for hazmat carriers. So that's a huge different change there.
And it doesn't seem like they're lowering it, right?
No, they're not. No, yep.
So again, it's sort of a good news to, if you're close to a threshold, you're just that much further away. Now, there's a lot of these changes. There's also a demo involved with this.
Absolutely.
Did you test that out?
Yeah, we tested out on a small sample size on our smaller carriers just to see some that were in alert status, to see where they would actually be at with the new model.
Right.
And, I'm not saying that this is for everybody like that would happen, but we saw about an average of 10% drop in a lot of our smaller carriers. So some that were actually in alerts were out of alerts in the new system,
right,
which, that would make them happy. So again, that's not going to be across the board. That's a small sample size, but it's something that we tested out. I recommend, if you have your login information, to get into that and check it out to see what you would be at, where you would be at. It's a cool tool, and it will help you comment during this comment period on what you like about it, what you don't, and what you think is fair and not fair. So. And
speaking of which, with the 90-day comment period, let's look into the crystal ball just a little bit. So it seems like a lot of people are going to like this change or these changes. Do you see all of these potential changes likely to move forward? And then, beyond that, what are they potentially getting at? What's the next step after this?
Well, that's a good question. The crystal ball, I wish I would have that to predict this. Some things that, we think that people will like, just don't like it. There's a lot of people in this world that don't like change. So sometimes you're going to see people put up fights. Honestly, as it sits right now, I think it's better. I don't know if it's going to solve all the problems. Right. But it seems like they went into a better direction of this. Congress is pushing, it's funny because they've been talking they just had a bill that they just put in there for unfit carriers for conditional, and part of that bill was for FMCSA to change some of this model, and all of a sudden FMCSA brought this out and kind of beat them to that bill. Doesn't address all the conditional unsatisfactory, but that's where the next stage of this will go. So, again, we'll see how everyone likes it out there in the transportation world, and we'll see the comments. I'm sure they're going to start flooding in. First glance, though, again, just not me, just other people in the industry looking at it as a positive thing and something that they're FMCSA is going in the right direction with. So. Right,
it's trying to be more fair, and it seems to be more fair. Well, yeah, thanks, John. There's a lot of information we covered. You can check us out, cnsprotects.com. We have an article breaking all of this down. If we missed anything, there's more detail there as well. Make your comments. We have a link on the website. We'll put it into the description as well for this video. And go make your comments. Your voices need to be heard, and go do that. And yeah, there's other videos you want to check out. Check out this playlist here. A lot of great information that we're going to be talking about. And in the end, stay safe out there.